Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pwnery's Week in Review, episode 17. Good God, when are we going to give this up? Anyway, you're probably hearing my show sponsor, which is a bunch of nagging, barking little Yorkies, and our lovely musical backdrop by Scott Allen. So anyway, we've got a pretty good show for you today. We're going to hit up 5 topics as usual. And we're probably going to murder some Yorkies today, just because they're still barking. Unbelievable. Anyway, I have panelists. You probably recognize them. So, good morning to Scott and Tony.
Hey, good morning, people.
Yeah, dogs are going
And I'm
nuts.
a little bit curious why I'm fixing to get murdered.
No, not a York, just Yorkies. I don't know if you can hear that.
Nope.
Oh, good. Yeah, if you can't hear that, that's great, because I just let 2 dogs out and now 6 dogs are going crazy, so. Would not recommend having tiny dogs in a 1-story house if you're going to record live because noise. But my new place is going to be 2 stories, so it'll help alleviate some of that, I hope. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we've got 5 stories. It's been a strange week, so to speak. We're going to touch up on well, basically, I think the theme of this week is media cover-ups in a way. But before we get into that, why don't we get into personal weeks in review as per usual? You guys had anything interesting happen this week?
I have not. I mean, we did the early watch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which kind of a record
Right.
for a while, and hopefully continue to do so, and maybe even a few extras now.
Are the extras going to be the pre-records?
No, 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 no.
Hmm.
We don't want to do them 5 days a week. Both of us have said while we miss doing that, we don't want to do it again because you quickly get tired of it. We're
So
trying not to burn out.
the thing is the impromptus are going to be harder to grab your viewers, I think, just because they're not expecting it. Or does it really matter?
It don't matter. Christ, we got people waiting a half hour before we come on.
That's true. I
I'm
mean,
like, Jesus Christ, you guys fucking camp here or what?
well, I got a friend who does Twitch video, and you probably seen him, Sub Brief, used to be Jive Turkey, and he's got, I don't know how he's doing it successfully, but he gets people to wait hours before and subscribe to his Twitch and resubscribe to his Twitch when there's not even a show going on. Like he'll jump in and he'll see like 15 to 20 subscriptions between episodes, which is pretty cool. I guess, people are watching the playbacks or whatever and they're just resubscribing, or maybe they do it on an interval. I really don't know how it works. I tried to make a Twitch account and apparently some jerk off took my username and I can't get it. So I was like, well, if I can't use my username, then I'm not going to make one. Screw it, you know? Besides, like, Twitch will let you do game streaming. Twitch will let you do DJing on camera. It'll let you do cooking. Like they have a whole bunch. They have a Twitch category for sleeping. Like people can watch you sleep. And yet I can't do anything gun related, reloading or whatever. I think that's kind of a double standard. It's asinine is what it is. Anyway,
Liberal.
maybe. I mean, let's be honest, right? Creative minds are typically liberal, aren't they? And I think the reason they are is because they live with an altered sense of reality. So, like Gene Roddenberry, for instance, right? He had to have been a liberal. I mean, think of his pie-eyed fantasy of taking people out in space and like the technology of the tablets and everything. And it took somebody with that outlandish dream to put it out there before technology could catch up to it. Like, I got to admit, not all liberalism is terrible, is it? Political liberalism is ridiculous. But I mean, just like pie-eyed optimism, like immature naivete or whatever. We were all that. It was called being a kid. Some people are just adult-aged kids. But without those people, we wouldn't have these creative fantasy things, stories, movies, technology, whatever. Because somebody has to make it reality, right?
Well, not to discount Roddenberry, but there was a lot of other people involved, starting with Isaac M.
Asimov, yeah.
Asimov. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, but you see what I'm saying, though, right? It's like we talk about conservatism, and it's like I used to basically describe conservatism as if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like you can summarize it that easily. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And then like liberalism was, oh, but we can do it better. And then the thing is you don't hear socialism didn't work because they didn't do it right. We can do it better. Like they kind of mumble the first part. Anyway, I was gonna touch on that too with AOC today because she literally wept during the vote to defund the Iron Dome for Israel. What a twat. Just whatever. I mean,
Uh,
she has no vested interest in Israel, right? She's a Latina from New York. What does she care about Israel? She's just towing Rashida Tlaib's, line, essentially, because squad members stick together. That's all it really is. And apparently she can cry on cue. Um, okay, so 3 episodes, consistency, possibly impromptu. That's good. Scott, anything good to happen to you this week?
Got something I was waiting for from an order I placed. Not as good as I thought it would be, but still interesting and autistic.
Was this the Gibbs custom?
Thing at my local.
Oh, wait, did you tell me about this already?
Sure, right in the meme vomit, actually.
I can't click over. It'll screw up the screen. You have to just tell me what it is.
O-face plate carrier, mag
Oh, yeah, I did see that before we jumped on.
carrier.
Okay, yeah, I did see that.
Which is why I said autistic, because it's autistic as fuck.
What happened with the Steyr Han?
Those have like 10 days on them.
Okay, so we'll update on that next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've watched a bunch of different stuff right now.
All right. So my personal week in review is actually kind of interesting. Last week, after the show, I had just casually eyeballed Gunbroker because of your sort of debacle with the Gibbs Custom Jungle Carbine. And I thought, well, let me just see what they've got. So I jumped on Collector's auction page on Gunbroker. For those of you who don't know, Collector's Firearms is quite possibly the largest antique gun store in the country. Like, it's 30,000 square feet. They carry like 150,000 rifles, pistols, shotguns. They've got CNRs, antiques, and they got modern too. But they're huge. And they just moved. I'll put it to you this way. They had a shop that was at the corner of a strip center, and it was iconic because it was there for like over 30 years. And apparently, thanks to the internet, it got a little popular. And then they bought out a Barnes and Noble with attached Starbucks building that went defunct. So they bought the building. They didn't lease it, they bought it. And that's what they renovated and turned into their 30,000 square foot new showroom. It's a really nice place, actually. So I went there, and just for fun, I was looking for like Swiss 9611s, K11s, K31s. Um, Collectors will post some of their high dollar stuff. Like, for instance, the slab sided broom handle Mauser that Othias did an episode on. They they had it listed for I think $4,500. And just stuff like that. original anacondas, pythons, couple of like Wilson Combat 1911s, stuff like that. But usually around page 3 or 4, you'll find like small parts, flash hiders, flashlights, mounts, things like that. And then sometimes you'll get the occasional milsurp or antique, some high dollar, some not so high dollar. And they usually put their fixer-uppers in there. And, I was scrolling down. I found a K31. It was missing, I think it was the magazine and the bolt. However, everything else, the rest of the rifle, was actually a competition rifle from the Swiss national shooting team. And it had the medallion smashed into the side of the stock. And I thought, ooh, that's really cool. You can find K31 bolts. That's not hard. Magazines for them are actually pretty cheap. So I thought, let me bid on that. I put in one bid at around $300, and then all of a sudden it just skyrocketed to almost $1,000 within an hour. And I'm like, fuck that. So I was out. But I just, I kept looking. And one of my to-do list Mausers came up. So it was a 1942 war production Husqvarna model 1938 Swedish Mauser. And I saw it and I thought, huh, that's pretty nice. I wonder why it's so cheap. At the time, it was like $190, and it only had a day to go. And I thought, yeah, let me check this out. So I jokingly, like, I'm not going to put it on this video, but on this Discord, I have a channel called Gun Picks, and I poked fun at Scott. I was like, hey, this is how you pick a milsurp. But I looked over the photos, and they only had 4 on the listing, but it was good enough. Like, I could figure it out pretty quickly. And the description was pretty brief, but I understood it. So I checked it out, and I thought, yeah, I'm in it for $200. So I put in a bid, $200, and it was like, you're high bidder. And I thought, great. Fast forward to Sunday, and I check it, and I'm in a bidding war with 2 other people. And I said, okay, how much am I really in this for? Because one of the things that I learned from Othias, actually, from Sea and Arsenal, is if you want to do gunbroker, the best thing you can do to keep your stress level down is, if you want it, put the most money you're willing to spend on it as your starting bid and just walk away. The system will just incrementally bid it for you. And then you just walk away and wait for the email. The problem is if there's a rifle or a pistol that I really want, I can't do that. I put in the bid that I'm willing to spend that day on it, and then I obsess over it constantly. And then I get mad when the email says, you've been outbid. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And then I add $100 to what I was willing to spend. Well, I repeated that twice on this rifle. And I just went scorched earth, and I was like, you know what? To hell with it. And I put a $400 bid in. I won the rifle for $340. I thought, okay, that's not bad. So I won the rifle. It's missing its rear leaf sight with the adjuster, and it has the wrong handguard. It's a 38 short rifle, which is actually the length of most Mausers, but it has an M94 carbine upper handguard. It's too short, and because of that, the barrel band is being pushed down because it doesn't have a handguard underneath it to keep it in position. So at first, when I got it, I thought, oh man, I gotta buy a barrel band too. But then when I finally, sat down and played with it, I thought, oh no, you just gotta push up on it and there's the gap. So I had to buy the sight leaf, the 38 sight leaf, which was only $8, and it was the only Swedish part Century Arms had. So I ordered that from Century. I ordered the handguard and the rear sling swivel, which was missing, and a complete 96 rear sight because it had the adjuster, and that's the same between a 38 and a 96. The only difference between the Leafs is the 38 was sighted to 100 yards, whereas the 96 is sighted at 300. So I couldn't use the Leaf, but I can use the adjuster. So I bought those pieces from Apex, and then I had to buy the sling swivel screws and the pin to hold the Leaf in from Numeric. So I ended up spending about $60 after shipping on the um, the missing parts. So I've got $400 in this rifle, and the finish has been already worked on. Like all the urethane finish or the varnish was like scrubbed off. So the stain is dark, but kind of weathered looking. And I put pictures up on CN Arsenal's Discord, and a lot of people were like, "Why is that rifle so dark?" And the consensus was that it's made out of Arctic birch, which is a dark wood. And what I'll probably end up doing is, like I did in a couple of the other This Old Gats, I'll just go ahead and hit it with denatured alcohol and steel wool, get it down real dull. And then I'm debating on, do I want to do a walnut finish on it and keep it dark? Or do I want to put some tint to it? Because my Siamese Mauser's kind of red, and I like it. My Swiss rifle, it's kind of beige. I kind of like that. And then the Winchester 70 that I did, I used mahogany stain, so it's kind of red, like really red. So I'm not really sure which way I'm going to go with this yet. I had this crazy idea that if I can get the wood really pale, that I would do that ocean blue translucent stain on this rifle, because it would make sense because Swedish colors are blue and gold, which would probably irk a few purists, but it's my rifle. You know, I want it to look a certain way, and I think it'd be kind of neat. But I think the wood's too dark, so I'll probably just chicken out and go walnut on it. I did it to my Springfield, and it turned out fine. It's just, I gotta wait for parts. Like, I want to dig into this and start filming the episode now because I know a lot of the viewers are probably sick of me doing just penny arcades all day. But those are easy to record. That's why I do so many. The gun videos take time, tools, money, parts. You know, I have to wait on those a lot. The Winchester 70 episode I had to split in 2 episodes because I got stuck looking for a bolt release detent and a magazine box for a 1961, which is called a pre-64 model, and those are kind of hard to find. So I cut the first half off at what I could get to, and then I had to try to find an alternative. I was going to modify a post 64, but it ended up being more trouble than it's worth. And then finally a pre 64 came up, which is why that got split up, and I did it correctly. But yeah, those are always harder to record. So
You
anyway,
saying you ain't making in them big YouTube bucks to buy your parts to do this stuff with?
no, I'm 100% self-funded. Like, you've never heard me talk about Patreon or Utreon or Go Fuck Me's or whatever the hell you want to call them, right? Like, none of those things I do. Now, if you are a vendor or an ammo manufacturer or just a hardware supplier or anything like that, and you want to like send me stuff to take a look at, I'll do it. You know, like I got approached by a company called Feyachi, and they're obviously kind of an upstart, but they sent me a shoulder rig, and I think I did a YouTube review or an Amazon review for that. And then they sent me, what was it they sent me? Oh, they sent me like iPro, which actually was pretty nice. Like that stuff was nice. Came with 3 different lenses and different nose pieces and things like that. That was cool. And then they sent me this Viridian color pistol laser. And this thing is the best thing I've gotten from them so far. It's insanely bright. Like, I didn't realize how fine particle dust is floating in my room all day until I hit this green laser and saw it like in the beam, and I thought, holy crap. But when they asked me if I wanted to do that one, I told them flat out, I was like, I'm going to do a review for that different than you're probably expecting. And they're like, why is that? And I said, because I don't use lasers for aiming assists. I use it as a training tool to correct flinches. And I said, that's the only reason I use a laser. I don't put a laser on my pistol when I duty carry. I only put it on when I go to the range to see how bad I'm flinching or where I'm pulling. Because it will, a weapon laser will make an honest shooter out of you very quickly. You can talk and brag to your friends all you want and be like, oh, I'm just having an off day. Or you're just shooting and you're like, it's the ammo. And they're seeing the holes, low right or high left or whatever. And you're like, oh, it must be this shitty ammo we bought. No. You put a laser on your gun, it's going to make an honest shooter out of you. They're going to see you flinch. They're going to be like, no, you just suck. So I wrote the review based on that premise. Like, I use it as a training tool. If you want to do it like that, it's very, very good for that. Yes, you can zero it in if you want. But remember, you're zeroing it to a set distance, so it's not like one distance fits all. Be aware, right? So they did that. It's pretty cool. They're sending me next a how do you describe it? It's a target system. So that thing where you put a target up on the wall and then you put what looks like a snap cap in your chamber, and when you pull the trigger, it fires a laser beam every time the primer pocket gets hit, and then it marks it on the digital target on the wall or whatever, and you can like use your phone app to see how you're doing. Those used to be really expensive. These guys have an entire kit for like, I think, $59. So they were like, would you like to try this? And I'm like, yes, I would. And they're like, what calibers do you need? I gave them 50 calibers. And they were like, well, we can send you 4. I'm like, fine. Send me 9 mil, send me 5.56. I think I told them to send me... they sent me a 12 gauge one, which I thought was kind of interesting. And they didn't count that towards my 4, which I thought was really cool. And then they sent me one for 357, and they sent me one for 45 Colt. So I thought, okay, cool. That'll work. So I'll do a review on that too eventually. But yeah, like,
Do you even own a 45 Colt?
Yeah. Well, I own a 454 Cazul, but it'll do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't have a Patreon. Like, nobody's asked me to start one either, because nobody's dumb enough to throw money at this, obviously. But if you really want to, hit me up. Maybe I'll consider it. It's just, I'm not really looking to do that. Like, my dream was a T&E deal with my local, which means it doesn't cost him anything. And, like, if Fiocchi or Cellier and Bello were like, hey, we'd like to send you ammo, I'd be like, great, and I don't have to reload so much, That's, like, the only things I want. I just want to make my fun cheaper.
Well, I can certainly empathize with the whole not getting wealthy off of YouTube bit.
Yeah. And, it's kind of funny. If you think about it, I know you don't get to hear it when you two get to hear it, but if you ever watch the replay, you'll hear the song track that I play in the beginning. And it's really good. Like, really good. And they don't hit me up for copyright. Ever. Because it's a mix. But I also use a lot of soundtracks from 8-bit, like, Nintendo games for my penny arcades. And again, I don't get hit with copyright. Ever. Except for Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy, for some reason, I got hit with a claim twice now. It's not hurting my channel because I'm not monetized, but it's still annoying to say that you got hit with a copyright claim. Twice. From a company about Final Fantasy IV, which came out in 1991, and they claim to own the rights to it. They're here in the States. I looked them up. I checked all their copyrighted material. They don't own it. So I disputed it. I'm like, look, I'm not a monetized channel anyway. I think this is a bit of an annoyance. can you look into this? Because they don't even own the rights to this. And countless other YouTubers have made the same complaint on Reddit threads, and I linked it in my dispute. And I said, but regardless, I'm not a monetized channel. I really don't care at the end of the day. I just wanted to bring this to your attention that your algorithm may be picking this up as a false positive. I've done 4 claims in this year alone. I have not gotten even a response from those 4 claims, which means they never even looked at it. They didn't rule. They just were like, whatever. If he doesn't care, why should we? I guess. What I'm worried about is someday if I hit 1,000 subs and they let me monetize for pennies on the dollar, I've got a couple $100 in my YouTube account from before they changed the monetization rules. I can't touch it because they locked it when they changed the rules, which is annoying. And you don't get to collect interest on it either. So it's just sitting there in the void, right? But if I go back over 1,000 and I reapply, what if they slam me for every other video? Like they were just waiting for that, so they had an excuse to strike 1, 2, 3, you're out instantly. That would piss me off. Because it's like, I did this as a joke in the beginning, right? I didn't put a lot of work into it because what you're seeing on your screen is easy for me to do. I'm an IT guy. I've been doing it my whole life. Setting this up was, convenient and easy. And I was willing to teach it to other people. Like I taught Jimmy how to do it so they can do the early watch. Doesn't cost them a dime. No fees.
No.
It's all free. That's the whole goal for this was broadcast free. Set it up the way you want it. Make it look the way you want it. Have it your way. No restrictions. And nobody's hitting me up on that. They would rather pay someone else to use their, cookie cutter generic service or whatever. So be it. But, it is what it is. I didn't put a lot of work into it because this is easy to me. Show prep, on the other hand, that takes time. That takes effort. Which I spent 4 hours yesterday preparing for this. But the layout and stuff, that's all easy, right? Well, what I discovered was the videos recording my videos for like This Old Gat or like the Penny Arcade or like a hardware review, things like that. I don't necessarily enjoy the recording part of it, but I found out that I actually enjoy the editing, which I thought I wouldn't. I thought I would dread it because it takes you an hour to record a video, but it takes you 4.5 hours to edit it. And then publishing it takes another 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how long your video runs. Like the last Penny Arcade I did ran an hour and 30 minutes. It took an hour and a half for it to compile because I had added so many little edits and clips and, little just jokes and quips throughout the video that it made the video take a long time to make. And then I had to upload it, which took another 3 hours. But I actually do enjoy the editing part, so it started off as a joke, but I'm getting pretty good at it, so it's just like, whatever, we'll have fun with it. It's still fun to me.
God, most people bitch about the editing.
No, you're right, and I thought I was going to dread it too. Now, the last video I did do that edit on, the only part I started to dread was how long it took, because I wanted to put it out there, right? But I kept just finagling it, going, no, I want to add this little joke here. I'm going to add this little screenshot here. Like the last video I think it was called Heroes Hour. And there was this one little thing called the Dark Carnival. And I read the description of what it is in the game on the video. And the first thing I thought of instantly was ICP. So I took the Insane Clown Posse's album art for the Dark Carnival and threw it in the bottom corner. I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to be like this. And it fades in and it fades out. And, it's just all those little things. I put in like what is on my mind as I'm saying something or as I'm doing it on screen. So you can sort of look into the mind of Pwnery. It's like, oh, I was thinking about this. So you can see it here. Or I would, when I say this is what I'm thinking. Just little jokes and things. That part is fun. But on an hour and 20-minute video, it's daunting because there's so many additions to add, and you have to get the timing just right, you know? Like I did this one part on video for Metroid, and I was telling a story about New England clam chowder, which I know you're thinking, what the hell, video game and food, right? But there was this one section in Metroid I called clam chowder, and I told a story about how I used to go to the grocery store when I was a little kid with my mom, and it was a grocery store called Apple Tree, which used to be a Safeway. Now, people up north, I think, still have Safeway. We don't down here. So when I tell the story, it's me reminiscing. When those people in the north hear it, they're probably like, what's the big deal? Safeways are everywhere. But it's not down here. So the story was me going to this crock pot near the seafood section, and it had these little 1 ounce sampler cups, and I would sneak like a 1 ounce sample of New England clam chowder. And whoever made it there was very good at it. And one time I went up there and I did 20 little cups before somebody was like, hey! And I was like, what? They're like, you're going to buy some of that. I'm like, okay. So then my mom would walk by. I'm like, buy some of this. And she goes, you don't even like it. And then he would, the guy behind the seafood counter was like, he just ate 20 of those little cups. And she goes, oh, okay, we'll take a quart. But as I got older, they have a restaurant near me. It's called Rockfish. And it's probably a franchise. But I've only seen the one. And they make a really good clam chowder. Tastes different than the Safeway one, but I mean, it's still good on its own merit. And the story is I would go there 30 minutes before closing, and I would talk to the manager every time. Like I got in real good with him because he used to be a manager at another place that I would go to when I worked down the street from it, and he used to make my sandwiches or whatever. But he was a manager at this Rockfish. And he would always ask me, do you want the usual? And I'm like, yes. So he would go to the kitchen, put in an order for clam chowder. I told him I wanted the big bowl. He would come back with 2 glasses of Crevassier cognac on ice because that's what I like. So I would sit there and sip on cognac while shooting the shit with the manager. And then he would bring me my chowder and then just leave me to it. And then 10 minutes before they would close, he would come up to me and he would say, we're getting ready to close, and we can't keep the chowder that's in the pot because they don't make it just for you. They make a pot of it and they serve it throughout the day, right? So he was like, would you like to have some more on the house? Because otherwise we just have to toss it. And I'm like, yeah. Right? So he would go back once or twice and fill my bowl, which is great because the bowl of chowder is only like $8. And I'd have 3 bowls and 2 cognacs, and I'd be just right. You know what I mean? So anyway, that part where I go, yeah, right? In the Metroid video, I timed it perfectly of this little clip of Captain Kirk going, yeah, in an animated picture. Like he just tips his head and yeah, that's the face he makes, right? That kind of editing takes patience, because you have to sometimes spread the video clip out to hundredths of a second. And I would have to shift it, zoom it out, play it, see if it timed out right. If it doesn't, zoom back in, shift it over some more. Get it to fit your voice perfectly. That one little section took me about 5 minutes just to get it right. And I mean, it's literally just a 3/4 of a second little pop-up animation. But like I was such a stickler for the detail that I put it in there, and that was still fun to me. But it does take a long time, especially when you have an hour and a half long video, and you've got to put that level of detail in it in all the video, the whole video. So you're spending 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 25 minutes doing this and cropping and editing or fades and volume changes and all that stuff. And then I got to this joke where I took like profile pictures of all my dogs, just like a face shot of them. And in a couple of the videos, if you hear the dogs barking in the background, what I'll do is if it's a single bark, you'll just see like a 15 millisecond flash of the dog's face going boop, boop, if it barks. And if they bark constantly and it's the same dog, that picture will like pop up 10 or 15 times, with the cadence of the bark. But I'll sit there and like move it around the screen or twist it so it's like not the same picture in the same angle every time. And it would go doot, 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 doot. If the dog's bark, 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 you would do that. And I got pretty good at that. And I think I've done that in like 3 videos so far. But nobody's annoyed by my dog's pictures, so I'll just keep doing it as long as it's still acceptable and funny. I don't even know why I got into all that. Anyway. Yeah, so to fall back on the personal week in review, bought the 38, did the background check on Monday after work, and I got bitten by the ATF. Went in there, got in there almost 6 o'clock in the afternoon, filled out the paperwork, sat there for an hour and a half. I could see the screen from the kiosk, and it just said processing. And after an hour and a half, it finally said pending further review. And I had realized that I made a mistake on the 4473 that I only made one other time before. And I should have known because the form had changed back in January. If you're not aware, the 4473 has changed. The weapon information goes on the top front page now, if I'm not mistaken. And then the part you fill out starts halfway down the front page now. So like the yes or no checkboxes section bleeds over to the back of the first page, which it didn't do that before. It used to be sign and date the top of the second page on the back, right? Well, didn't happen. So I had filled it out the way I had always remembered it before. But one thing that the ATF had done is they changed the country code of the country I was born in. So the first time I did it is back when I bought my Argentine Mauser. And what had happened was, you go city you're born in, I have to leave it blank. Country you're born in, you fill out the country. So I would write South Korea. Born on a military base, but South Korea regardless. So I write South Korea. I don't put the city, and to help them move things along, I always put my social on the form. Just, I ain't got nothing to hide, whatever, right? So I fill it out, and usually it just sails right on through. Well, if they do the electronic form, after you write everything down, they type it all in. 2 things. One, the country code changed to just Korea. So there, in the eyes of the ATF, there is no North and South Korea anymore. You just put Korea. I didn't do that. I put South. That gave me the delay. It could have been avoided if they had called in my information, because they would have read them my social security number, and then they would have pulled it up and it would have been fine. They did the electronic thing. There's no blank on the electronic thing for them to type that in. I asked her. She was like, no, there's no blank for that. So she was like, filling that out here is no benefit. And I thought, well, that's annoying. So because I had the wrong country code, because they couldn't do my social, because they do the electronic form, I got delayed. This place is equidistant to my house in the opposite direction, which makes my commute home double. On top of that, that distance from my work to their place is one long 14-mile string of liberally run poor city management and garbage construction everywhere on interstates at rush hour in the 4th largest city in the country. So when I leave work, I left work 4:45, and I didn't get to my destination until 6, almost 6:30. I mean, it's 14 miles, right? So I left there. Rush hour was just dying off, so my commute home was actually pretty good. But I had to wait, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday at lunchtime I call, and I say, hey, 4473 sent in, came up delayed. I know it only takes 3 business days to clear otherwise. Did you hear anything back? Guy says, oh yeah, you cleared about 20 minutes after you left. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't you call me? Like, you said you would call me so I didn't have to, call you. Oh, sorry, we must have been busy. When I went to go pick it up yesterday, they still made me wait an hour because they couldn't find my rifle. Like, they misplaced it. When I got delayed, they put it in this nice little canvas bag and they put it up front behind the register. It wasn't there on Friday, so they had to find it. Anyway, I made friends with the sales girl. She's kind of cute, and she just moved here from Vegas, which I thought was weird because she said, I left Vegas so I can keep my guns. And I thought, wait a minute, I thought Vegas was a relatively free, or Nevada was a relatively free state. And she goes, times are a changin'. She had worked for a gun shop out there, and she'd been there for 10 years. And as a thank you for her and her husband's service, they gave her an MP5.
Hold a lot of guns.
How cool is that? They gave her an MP5. I'm like, what? Anyway, she's here now. She works at Collectors. Really nice girl. And then we were talking about drive tanks out in Uvalde, Texas, because she's kind of new here, and she's like, is there any place to go shooting? And I'm like, I could tell you a place where you can go shoot tanks. And she goes, you're kidding. So I told her about drive tanks out in Uvalde, told her my story about how I got to drive around in an M4 Easy 8 Sherman and charged $12,000 to my boss's account because I fired 3 armor-piercing shells out of the 76 millimeter main gun, which came at a cost of $4,000 a shell. I didn't know. Like, the commander of the tank was like, yeah, you see that bus out there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you want to shoot it? And I'm like, hell yeah. And he looked at me, and he was watching me to see if I was looking for like a trigger mechanism. I didn't even blink, man. I stomped my foot on that pedal and let it fly. He goes, oh, you really do know about these. I'm like, dude, I was a researcher for wargaming for like 10 years. And he's like, all right, say no more. And then he had the loader put in another round. And he's like, you see that armored car out there? And I was like, yep. Boom. Hit it twice. I got out of that tank, like, juiced. My boss looked at me. He was pissed. I was like, what? And he goes, that just cost me 12 grand. I'm like, you didn't say we couldn't. He managed to find a way to get it as a write-off, but he was pissed. So I told her about that. I told her about going four-wheeling out in Uvalde. And just before I left, I said, oh, by the way. She goes, yeah? I said, if you go mudding, make sure you wash that stuff off immediately. And she's like, why is that? I said, Uvalde's red mud stains paint. And she goes, thanks for letting me know, because they just bought a brand new JK, and she didn't want to ruin it yet. So I was like, okay, just remember, wash it as soon as you can, otherwise you're screwed. And then she told me about Dragon Man. I was like, I know all about Dragon Man. That's the Devil's Playground. So anyway, good morning to you, Mad Sexy. I do see you out there. I went on a rant. All right, so yeah, that was the week in review. Sorry that took so long. I had a lot to talk about today, I guess. So let's get into the news. I do have 5 stories for you, and as I said in the intro, today's theme is sort of centric around the media hiding or burying stories. Apparently the yard crew is outside, right out my window if you hear that, sorry. Anyway, the first story I got for you today is not a pleasant one, obviously. Those of you who are 2A minded are probably painfully aware that mental health issues have reared its ugly head again in the state of Tennessee. And what we have is a moron, to put it lightly. We have a moron who decided to walk into a Kroger and essentially light the place up. And he had wounded, I think the number was 14. The new number was 14, and there was one fatality, and then the guy opted out. So technically, there's 2 fatalities. This happened at about 1:30 local time in Tennessee, and police were on the scene, and a lot of people were describing uh, what they had seen and how they had ran off, and some of them were hiding on the roof, and some of them were hiding in the freezer, things like that. It was a real shit show, to put it lightly. But the news covered it as it happened for about an hour or two, and then the local police chief came out and did a press conference and sort of described the. It's always the same, isn't it? It's introductory details with a warning that the facts will change as time goes on, as they can become more available, and prayers go out to the family. It's all cliche stuff, isn't it? It's like they have an index card with this is what happens, this is what you say, because that's what the news has told you to say. That story got buried real quick. I got home from work that day and I was looking for updates on it, and there weren't any. It wasn't even on the front page of most sites anymore. And I thought, what's going on? That's a pretty big deal. Like, usually the just the introduction of that story would have Dianne Feinstein moist and flipping through her Rolodex of gun control bills that she wants to put out there. You know what I mean? It's just like, none of them spoke out on it. Did you notice that? No politicians, no Democrats, no Shannon Watts, no David Hogg jumping on his bicycle and pedaling like a madman to Tennessee. None of that happened this time. And do you know why? I did a little digging, and I found out why. Because they were scared to death of the fact that it didn't fit their narrative. So here's the story. This is your scumbag. Did you notice something a little strange about his name? Did you notice something a little strange about his photo? He's Vietnamese. He's not an angry white dude. He's not a militant. He was a third-party vendor for a grocery store who got frustrated. Maybe they canceled their contract with his company or something. Whatever. I don't care. His behavior is ridiculous. So the theory I have is this guy doesn't fit the media narrative. It doesn't fit the angry white guy. It doesn't fit the PTSD soldier. It doesn't fit the scorned ex-lover. It doesn't fit any of those narratives. It doesn't fit the racism narrative that the left seems to just thrive off of. So what I thought was, they buried this because they were deathly terrified of the retaliation against the Asian community. Because what else are they peddling? Hashtag Stop Asian Hate. Remember that? Remember that? They've been pounding that into us. Now remember, I live in the 4th largest city in the country. It has one of the biggest Chinatowns in the nation. If you ask anybody in that area about Asian hate, they look at you like you're crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? There's no Asian hate here. And by and large, they're right. It's a narrative they're peddling, and it has no teeth behind it. But because this guy is of Asian descent, I'm assuming he's Vietnamese based off of his last name. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he is. They don't want to show you this because they're terrified that there will be retaliatory attacks that make their stupid narrative true, and they don't want to be held responsible for it. Anyway, you guys got thoughts on this douchebag, or can I get rid of him?
I ain't got nothing. This is first I realized that he was Asian.
Yeah, well, I had to dig pretty hard to find it.
They bury a shooting like this. If you do a little digging, guarantee it wasn't a white guy.
Yeah, well, in this case, it absolutely wasn't. And the funny thing is, a witness described the weapon he carried in as a big gun, right? They still haven't said what he used. You know why? Because it probably wasn't an AR. And it probably wasn't an AK either. Because they love if it is. When the chief of police did his interview an hour and a half, 90 minutes after the shooting scene was cleared, the first reporter goes, "Do we know what kind of weapon was used?" Now, in all honesty, you know what he was actually asking. I mean, let me translate that in stupid, stupid, childish liberal speak. Was it an AR? I bet it was an AR. It was an AR, wasn't it? No? How about an AK? Was it an AK? I bet it was an AK. That's what he was actually saying. And the police
I
chief
hope
shut
the
him
fuck it
down.
wasn't a Marlin.
Well, the fact of the matter is the police chief shut him down. He was just like, no, we don't know. Don't ask. We're still investigating. Like, he just shut him up, which is great. Anyway, that's our first story.
Which was a complete lie.
Yeah.
Because obviously the chief knows what kind of gun is used.
Well, maybe the chief doesn't, because the chief's not the one who actually collects the evidence.
No, but he has to give the press conferences, so he has to know those kind of things.
That's the thing, though. It was 90 minutes in. The guy's body wasn't even moved yet. So technically,
I would bet you the chief walked the scene at the very least.
maybe. But technically, it was still an active crime scene. So, like, there was still a body with a head shaped like a canoe with whatever implement he used to opt out, probably within the vicinity of his right hand. Whatever. But yeah, you maybe. I'm just saying that maybe not. You know, the chief is the figurehead, spokesperson. He doesn't actually have to see the scene. He's just the guy who gets the information from those who did. You know what I mean? Like, it's how the chain of command works. It's like the president doesn't go and freaking, you know, open new buildings in a city for the mayor of that city, kind of a thing. The mayor does that. Stuff like that. Probably not a good example, but you get my point. Next story that I've got for you. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so... Oh, wait. Before we go into the next story, I promised I wanted to talk about this. What happened in Tennessee can happen anywhere, obviously. But Tennessee is a constitutional carry state. And Texas just became one. And 18 other states are constitutional carry states. And Louisiana's trying to be 21. What I want to know is, what's the point of getting constitutional carry in your state if you're not going to exercise the freedom that was just given to you? And the reason I ask this is because I think Scott and I had a debate on this a couple days ago. Somebody told us that Kroger has a no guns in our store policy. September 1st, when constitutional carry was implemented and enacted in my state, I had to go to the grocery store. I had a Beretta on me. Now, I draped my shirt over my outside the waistband holster, but I still carried. I walked up to the door with my face diaper on, because that's still a thing, and I looked at all the signage at the door for about 30 seconds before I walked in. There was nothing posted on any wall or door that said firearms are not allowed. Nowhere. So I walked in. I bought my milk. I bought my coffee creamer, my cinnamon rolls. Yes, I said that wrong. And a case of Oktoberfest. And I checked out in the self-checkout, and I went about my merry way. The shooting happened the day after. Or sorry. Never mind. I've got my stories mixed up. I did the grocery store thing on the day constitutional carry happened. Nothing happened. I went again with my Easy 380 Shield with the gold stuff on it the day before the Kroger shooting in Tennessee. The only thing that happened to me on that day was I walked by and I had to reach for something on a higher shelf, and my shirt pulled up and the bottom of the barrel was showing. And this really cute little girl goes, "Mommy, he has a golden gun." And I looked over at her and kind of smiled, and I looked at her mom and I said, "Ma'am, I'm not Scaramanger." And she busted out laughing. And then the next day, this happened at a Kroger in Tennessee. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. There's no guns sign on your store. You are in a constitutional carry state. And there was nobody in the store who could try to stop this guy. So my question to you watching or this panel is, if you have constitutional carry, what good is it if you don't exercise the right that was given to you? Because I do now, every day. Because I just,
Well,
what if it was my grocery store the day before? That really got me thinking.
I can tell you this from experience of having my concealed carry. In the 5 years I had it, the last two, I didn't carry a gun
Right.
because I never figured I was in a place to need it. Of course, that first gunshot in the grocery store, I might have changed my fucking mind.
Right. See, that's my whole point is no mass shooting location is a place you think you're going to need it. But see, that's why insurance works the way it does. Have it and not need it rather than need it and not have it. Because you don't know where the accident will be either. If it was predictable, then yeah, you know exactly where you can't carry or where you don't carry. It's like, I'm going to my girlfriend's house and she's wearing matching panties with her bra and she's purring in my ear on the phone the whole way to her place. Do you think I have to carry to her apartment? I don't think so. That's the only place that's predictable for me. Now, if she
Well,
calls me and she's grumpy and I hear a male's voice in the background, you're damn right I'm carrying. But that never happened, so,
the complacency thing is real easy to fall into before something like this happens.
Right, and it takes these little tragic reminders to kind of get you focused. See, I had a hindsight moment of relief, basically. You know what I mean? Like, it happened at the same grocery store in a different state the day after. But it was, as soon as I saw it and heard where it was, yesterday was in my mind, and I'm like, man, that could have been where I was. The guy who sold me my stamps yesterday, that I didn't even know he sold the stamps because I never had to buy stamps before. Yeah, I know, I'm 42 and I never had to buy stamps. Anyway, like, I talk to that guy every time I go pick up my beer. And, what if I had been in that grocery store and he was laying in a pool of his own blood and I had to keep my finger over a hole in his neck or something, One finger on my left hand in his neck, one hand on my pistol watching the room, cutting the pie, so to speak, right? I thought, yeah, I'm glad I was prepared. But, what it took for me to actually feel that way was I did have a CHL. Before I go any further, I should say this. I had a CHL for like 10 years. What had happened is I had a friend who was interested, and he was very hesitant to go. And I told him, well, hell, mine's about to expire. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm like, go after this date. Let's set it up for that, and I will go with you. I'll go through the paperwork, and I'll pay the fee again. I was like, if that'll make you comfortable, misery loves company, because he and I have known each other since I was 7 years old. We grew up together. So I figured if that would make him comfortable, I will eat the cost. It's not a big deal, right? That's what friends do for each other. So he was like, cool, yeah, let's do it. Well, he flaked out. Then my license expired, or my carry license expired. And I thought, well, that sucks. So I couldn't carry legally. I went to go get renewed, and the guy that was at the renewal place, he goes, hey. He was like, honestly, don't waste your time. I'm like, why is that? And he goes, Abbott's about to put up the constitutional carry bill. He's like, you're not even going to need this anymore. And I thought, yeah, okay. that makes sense. That math checks out. So I didn't renew because I only had to wait like, I think it was about 13 or 14 months. Now, we have Castle Doctrine, and I was still able to carry my duty pistol in my tool bag. Like, I carry a tool bag to work every day. And it's like I'm protected in my car, my work, and every place in between the two in the house. So I was still carrying, just not on my person. It was on my bag, which is easy to get to. Um, so I wasn't completely disarmed. But, you know, now that I don't have to worry about stupid taxes for my rights, I carry everywhere. Now, if I'm going, I haven't gone to a bar yet because I prefer to drink at home nowadays. But if I were to go to a bar, I would obviously have to leave it in the car. But so far, everywhere I've been since the first, I can carry with impunity. And I carry outside the waistband because comfort. My comfort is more important than your paranoia. I'm sorry, it just is. But I do what's called obvious carry. So there's outside the waistband, there's inside the waistband, like, hey, look at me, right? With the outsides. And then there's what I just call obvious carry, which is I usually wear a shirt that drapes over the holster. It prints ever so slightly, but most of the printing actually comes from my phone in front of the gun, which is just this big square. So most people see the square and they don't even pay attention to what's behind it. Fine, man, whatever, right? It's just, if you live in a state as such, and I'm not trying to say that you have to watch everything at every corner and be suspicious of everybody. I'm just saying, if you have the right to carry your insurance policy, exercise your rights. I mean, 14 people got shot. One died. The person who died wasn't even targeted by this person. This guy didn't have a target. He just wanted to hurt people. They've determined that. Like, this woman that died, she was already a widow with 3 children. I mean, those kids must be the counseling for those kids. I'm a psychologist, and I was classically trained in psychology of women and relationship therapy. So, like, once in a blue moon, I would have to talk to somebody with children or talk to the children. But if I was a child psych, I would not want to be that family's child psychologist. I wouldn't want to touch that with 10-foot pole. Like, if you thought I drank a lot now, you'd have to put me on an Oktoberfest IV drip after those kids. No way. If you can carry, you should carry. That's all I'm saying. And if you do carry, and this is going to sound like a commercial, make sure you consider carry insurance, especially if you're in a high-risk area, just so your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted and your legal finances are covered. I use Texas Law Shield. But anyway, I'm not trying to sell insurance. I'm just saying, if you think you need it, have it. All right. I'm done with that. If you guys want to add anything, go ahead. But
No, I think you got the commercial over just fine.
sorry. I don't work for them. Like I said, I'm not even monetized. They're not giving my policy for free. But hey, if you want to. Anyway. All right. Next story. Sorry that took so long. I really thought that this show was not going to have enough meat, and all it is meat, and I'm not giving you the potatoes. Sorry. Although he was here before we went on air. Some of you will know what that means. All right, so today's second story covers the border crisis. And some of you who may live in more blue areas of the country may be asking, what border crisis? I saw the pictures yesterday. That bridge you guys keep obsessing about is completely empty. And you'd be right. It is, today. But had you paid attention to the last 3 weeks, you would know that there was a total of 30,000 migrants living under a bridge in Laredo, Texas. Because apparently the border's wide open. Apparently, the Border Patrol have to use horses because ATVs can't do elevation changes and quick 90-degree turns when the need arises. Only a horse can do that. I've owned horses. I know what they're capable of. You need a horse in Laredo. You don't need an ATV. You need a horse. And that's what they use. That's what they have used since 1904. It is standard equipment for the mounted patrol, obviously. So you know I'm talking about the photo that sparked liberal outrage across the country. The photo that has been taken at two different angles that prove that nothing happened. The photo where the man who took the photo is on the record repeatedly saying nothing happened. Nobody was abused. Nobody was even bumped into with the horse. You guys are taking my photo out of context. Right? I mean, that's basically what they're going on about. Where do I have that?
Certainly wouldn't surprise me none.
Oh dear. I made a boo-boo. Hang on a second. I gotta fix this real quick. I made a boo-boo. I think I deleted the... Here it is. Okay. All right. So here's the video, or here's the story. This is the photographer who took the photo. And he says nothing happened. Nobody whipped anybody. Nobody got hit with horses or anything. He's like, I just took the photo of the Border Patrol doing their job against these people who are trying to get away from them. The left don't care. The Department of Homeland Security Director Mayorkas, the day it happened, said long split reins are standard equipment for mounted patrols on the border. They are trained to do a job and they do it a certain way. Everything by all accounts looks fine. However, we will do an investigation and we will share the results of that investigation with you. But he said in his opinion, there's nothing to see here. Fast forward 12 hours after he took a beating from the White House and from Congress people all over the left. He goes back on camera the next day and say, those images are horrifying, they're deplorable, they are not what represents American values. Somebody is going to go down for this. Followed by Captain Sundowner and his merry band of idiots going, somebody is going to pay. For what, Joe? For what? A guy doing his job? A photo that's been debunked 1,000 times? My question to you, audience, is if you can't trust the guy who took the photo that you are using out of context, then who do you trust? Who do you believe? Because the left wants you to believe the narrative that they drive more than the facts of their source material. What the fuck?
He is the guy who owns the copyright to said photo, starts suing everybody left and right for not having his permission to use the photo.
I would very much like to see that. But I don't think he has the legal precedence to do so.
If you take the photo, you own the copyright.
Right, but the photo went viral, I think, on... It went everywhere.
The copyright remains with the photographer unless he's doing it under like contract work.
I bet
if he's commercially
I bet the photo
somebody, they own the rights.
Well, I bet the photo is actually owned by the news agency he works for, not the individual.
For a legit news agency, possibly.
Yeah, which he is. So that's probably why he doesn't have the standing to do so. If he could, though, he ought to. He ought to. But then again, maybe he's worried about getting, suicided. I mean, let's consider who's in
Millions and
charge now.
millions of dollars he could possibly get.
Yeah, with 4 bullets
Probably
in the back
afford
of
a
his
good.
head, ruled a
Oh
COVID
yeah,
suicide.
he could probably afford a pretty good personal protection specialist.
Dan Bongino. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Anyway.
he was Secret Service.
Anyway. Now, I was going to say it should be Buck Sexton. What a name. That guy used to be ex-CIA. He's the guy who took over for Rush Limbaugh after he passed, by the way. That guy is legit. Like, super legit. Buck Sexton. I just love saying that guy's name. It's just like...
He's porn name.
He should be. He's political porn, though. Like, the dude is on it. He's got an A game. He really does.
Does he have a big 70s porn stash?
No, he's clean shaven. But anyway.
Oh, that would be fucking perfect.
The dude's legit. Like, his show is pretty legit. He used to sub for Rush. Like, I don't listen to that anymore because it makes the day go too long. And I don't like to be... I'm already Bruce Banner when it comes to political news. I don't want to be green and smashing things all day like I used to be. Anyway. I guess we're dead with that story. Yeah, anyway. Nobody got whipped, but they took the horses away. And then they cleared out the whole migrant camp 48 hours afterwards. And now what they're doing, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. Now they're pushing this, what migrant camp? Look for yourself. It's empty. What are you talking about? You guys are crazy. They're pulling that shit now.
And that's when you go, okay, so where did the 30,000 people go?
They don't answer that. Jen Psaki didn't answer that. Mayorkas didn't answer that. He actually had the audacity to say 8,000 Haitians decided to turn around and go back to Mexico. Bullshit.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
you say that, I've got a fucking bridge to sell you.
Well, yeah, but they would have 30,000 migrants living under it. Never mind. Keep the bridge. For those of you who are wondering, because I've seen this meme passed around all week, of a map with Haiti circled and a giant arrow telling you the miles between that and Laredo, Texas, and how the hell they crossed that much ocean, let me stop you right now and correct you. The people who have come through the border at Laredo are Haitians. However, they are from the Haitians of years past. They are the asylum seekers living in Chile. They were sent to Chile and Venezuela and Colombia as a humanitarian effort back in 2014, back when that earthquake happened. And there was another one back in Hillary's time when that happened, when she took all the money and ran. Those are the people that came up to the Laredo border. Those are the ones, not the ones that are stuck there now, the ones that were already in South America. And the reason I know this is because they went across the border and found stacks of torn nationalist papers for these people from Chile. And the reason that it's there, they tore them up, is because Title 42 for a health crisis is one means for them to get through. The other way is they're seeking political asylum. But the rules of political asylum must prove abuse or fear for your life from the country you are leaving. Meaning, they would have to seek political asylum from Chile, not from Haiti. But because they had been living in South America for the last 7 years, that doesn't qualify. So they tore up their paperwork to lie to get into this country. Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like the same kind of people who come across saying, hey, look, I know I broke the national trust and your federal laws and the sovereignty of your nation to get here, but you can trust me now. Fuck you. And for the Haitians that tore up their paperwork from Chile and then said we broke across the border and we forged our documents by destroying them, fuck you twice. Die of dehydration and get eaten by coyotes. 8,000 people went back to Mexico. Kiss my ass. One of the news guys faked being a Honduran immigrant. He was wearing a body cam. They show him walking in line, being handed a manila envelope with, what did they call it? duty to appear or something like that. Something to appear. I forgot the name of it. Basically, it was paperwork for the immigration courthouse, right? And it was, oh, notice to appear. And then there's another one called NTR, notice to report. The notice to report takes it takes the Border Patrol 20 minutes to process. Notice to appear takes an hour per case. So what they've been doing is dumping thousands of NTRs, not NTAs, because NTR just means you call in. They don't need a court date or anything. This guy got a manila envelope with an NTR. And he was put on a bus, and it fast forwards for 3 hours, and they ended up in San Antonio. They stopped, got out, had lunch, were given water, got back on the bus, fast forward another 3 hours. They ended up in Dallas, Texas. The bus doors opened, person on the bus said, "Everyone get out." Everyone got out. He started walking around outside the bus. They were in downtown Dallas. There was nobody there. There was no Border Patrol. There was no immigration people. They literally parked the bus in downtown Dallas and said, "Everybody out." And when the last guy got out, they shut the door and drove off. And he sat there and he looked around and he goes, "What the hell are we supposed to do now?" They dumped them off. 8,000 Haitians went back to Mexico. Fuck you. They bust every one of those guys across the country and just dropped them off. They spread the problem out everywhere so the source looked empty. This is what they're trying to sell you right now. Get that shit out of here. Anyway. Story number 3. This one's actually kind of funny. Do you remember the ATF pistol brace comment period? And how many gun channels, I won't name specific ones, but many gun channels kept promoting, hey, go here, fill out the form, make sure you stay educated and professional and don't be childish. Don't cut and paste a message because they collate them together as one. Make sure you change up the wording a little bit so it's unique. It was a good campaign. A lot of comments were put in. Strangely enough, after they had collated the like comments, because some of you people are too stupid to listen to instructions and you cut and pasted it, and they didn't count yours as a unique comment, good job. The ATF is requesting more time to process the comments. They only have 210,000 of them. Last I checked, we sent 400,000 comments, either for or against. They only have to ask to process 210,000. Now, I don't know if that means they processed a bunch of them already and that's all they got left, or if that was the total number and they just said, "Hey, we don't have time to do this in the time you gave us." Either way, they're asking for 4 months to process this. Government waste? Government inefficiency? Government stupidity? You fill in your metaphor here. Do we give them more time, or do we just say, stop wasting your time and just leave it the hell alone? Thoughts? Tony ain't got no skin in this
Be
game.
held to what the law requires.
Well, I mean, I know Tony doesn't have any skin in this game, but...
Well, the law only gives them a certain amount of time to process all that shit.
Oh, he went AFK. I didn't pay attention to the chat. I'm an idiot. 211,000. Sorry. Yeah, process is expected to require more than 4 months. Right. 4 months. So that means they're gonna process 50,000 comments every month. Let's see. Let's do some math. Let's do a little bit of math. So let's say 211,000 comments, 4 months. That's 52,750 comments a month. Let's say an average of 30 days a month. That's 1,758 comments a day. This is the Department of Justice, or is it Department of Justice or ATF? I think it's DOJ, right? Let me go back to the story. Yeah, the DOJ and the ATF. So let's just assume that combined, they've got 100 people working that. Just to read the comments, okay? That's 3 comments a day. I mean, fuck it. Let's say they only got 10 people working on it. That's 33 comments a day. They need 4 months because they can only process 33 comments a day. Bullshit. Bullshit. You don't need more time. You just need to shut your doors and not exist. We don't need you. Okay? We've covered this at length, ad nauseum, ad infinitum, ad mortem. We don't need you. We don't need the ATF. You don't. Alcohol and tobacco can be regulated by the Bureau of Weights and Measures. It's interstate commerce for tax collection. They are also a subsidiary of the Department of Treasury. They were who used to do alcohol and tobacco. Okay? That's what had happened. They used to do that. Firearms and explosives. Am I leaving something out? No. Firearms and explosives. I'm intimately familiar with this. I got delayed this week. When you get delayed, it goes to the FBI. And they look further into your information to clear you. Okay? Which means you don't need the ATF. Because the FBI is already doing the job anyway. How much money can we save if we get rid of the ATF? How many useless, redundant jobs, wasted buildings, wasted vehicles, wasted dog-killing MP5s that they carry? How much of that can we cut out of the budget just to get rid of a redundant, useless, overbearing, Stasi-like organization that just continues to outlive its usefulness and abuse its authority? Demand better. Get rid of it. Ban the ATF. Hashtag ban the ATF. I'm not the first person to say it. I won't be the last. I have 6 dogs. I will defend them. Anyway. They need more time. Because, they're idiots. Alright, moving on. Moving right along. Now, I have to admit that I didn't really read this story too far in. So if you know more about it than I do, you can chime in, Scott. But the Biden administration has released a brief on supporting New York State's May issue carry license permit law. Okay? And this is the whole thing here. It's long. It's super long. But what they're basically doing is they're trying to cite law, and they're trying to twist it in such a way to say, and because of that, this is why it's legal that we can let New York decide if who and who can't have a carry permit that day. Like, the processing or the chief of police might be having a bad day because he caught his wife in the shower with the fire chief or whatever, and now he's not giving licenses to anybody. Stuff like that, right? So the question I really pose out there is, and I've asked this before, and this is going to be a recurring theme on this show. Why does the one entity that the Second Amendment was meant to rein in and keep in check have the authority to rule on who can and cannot receive a carry permit in New York based on how they feel that day? Why does any government entity think they have the authority to dictate the very amendment that was placed as the ultimate check and balance given to the people to prevent government becoming tyrannical? Why do we continue to allow this? We, the people, not you, me, and Scott, whatever. Why do we allow this collectively? We trust government and vote them in to do a job and represent us because there's not enough time in the day for us to do everything ourselves. That's what the function of government is. We entrust our faith in you based on our beliefs, and we vote for representatives of our beliefs to act on our behalf. That is how government, in its basic definition, works. And yet they don't work for us, do they? If anything, they only work against us. That's all they ever do is work against
Well,
us.
now, first off, the people that are in there doing this are not people that we, who actually care about this shit, voted in.
Well, right, we're not being represented equally. Those
The
who are
bureaucrat.
against us voted for those who work against us. I get that.
No, these are just bureaucrats that don't get voted on. It's middle management, basically.
Well, you're talking about the ATF, where they're appointed rather than voted. I get that. But I mean, what I'm saying is we're not being equally represented at all. And yet they're trying to raise our taxes right now. Whatever happened to no taxation without representation? Whatever happened to the idea that the Bill of Rights were necessary in the first place to even start our country because they couldn't get 13 colonies to agree to the Constitution without it? Whatever happened to that? I don't know.
Well, that's too restricted to political goals, basically.
Well, that's the thing. They don't work for us, do they? See, the thing is
No.
a congressperson or anyone in Washington, they work really hard to get elected. They will promise you the earth, moon, stars, and Kate Beckinsale on a silver plate purring in your ear. They'll promise you all those things. They'll promise you drive-through free abortions. Like, hey, put your woman in stirrups on the hood of your car. You don't even have to stop. Just put it in drive and let it coast through. We'll roto-root her in 10 seconds flat. Crap like that, right? They'll do that. And yet, as soon as they get in office, two things happen. If they are of the party of establishment, they immediately start working on their re-election campaign. That's it. Just the election campaign. If they are the opposition of the establishment, or if they are neo-establishment, if they're the new, like squad kind of a thing, right? Now, for some reason, the squad gets a pass, and I don't know how the hell they got away with that. How in the fuck did 6 women outpower the entire DNC? Like, there's some value in however they did it. And it would be wise for the other side
Because
to
they
take
represent
notes.
the entire fringe of that party.
Sure. But you see what I'm saying, though? 6 people
Yeah,
outpowered the entire
fringe of
DNC.
that party
Got the rest
has
of that
some
party elected.
serious power.
Well, I think to build on your point is the fringe Democrat, the lunatic, voted for the establishment part also, just because there's a D next to their name. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But see, our side needs to start taking notes because that they do that better than us. They organize better. But the other guy, say like, and I know you're not going to like this guy, but I'm telling you, he's not terrible. You take like a guy like a Dan Crenshaw, or you take a guy like a Troy Nels, who's used to be my county judge. Now he's a freshman congressman. They go there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. They got a handful, Mr. Smith goes to Washington kind of a thing, right? He's got a handful of bill proposals. Walks in, Mitch McConnell steps in front of him and he goes, "What do you have there? Let me see that." And you grab the bills, he starts thumbing through them and he goes, and tears it in half and drops it on the floor and he goes, "Let me tell you something. You can toe the line, and you can smell the cherry blossoms, and you can drink the cognac, and you can be one of us and have a great and promising career here as a future conservative. Or you can try to peddle this bullshit, and you will have the shortest political career in Republican history. And those poor bastards get beat down and toe the line because the cognac tastes good and the cherry blossoms smell great. Why do they want to personally give up that to serve the people? They want to stay there and keep drinking the cognac and smelling the cherry blossoms. I have a personal meeting with Congressman Troy Nels coming up because he will be here in my area, and he has agreed to meet with me and my friend Ron because we started a group here called America's Common Sense Brain Trust, and we're gaining traction. Imagine that. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask him, what have you done since you got to Washington? What have you done since I have put you there? What committees have you been involved with that has made a difference? Or have you even been selected for a committee? Because if you haven't, then you haven't done anything since you got there except collect a paycheck. The only thing I've ever seen this congressman do so far is run over to Biden after the State of the Union address and say, Mr. Biden, I come from one of the most diverse counties in the state of Texas. I want to work with you. Do you? That means you don't want to work for me, which means I don't need you, which means you need to go. And I'm going to say it to him just like that. Now, I respect the man. He was an Army major, combat veteran. He was a sheriff of my county for like 20 years. The guy's got credentials, but he's also got a colon full of cherry blossoms shoved up there. And I think it's because the establishment put it there. And I'm telling him to take a suppository and blow that shit out and do his fucking job. Or he won't have one anymore. Anyway, last story of the day. We made it. Hey, how about that, right? Now this one's going to be a bit absurd. And good morning to you, Woods. I do see you there. Sorry, I'm really bad about the chat. And if you guys have questions, just type them in there. By all means, go right ahead. This last story is... File this under ridiculous. Asinine. There was a person who was trying to buy a firearm. They were under the age of 21, so I'm going to assume it's a pistol. And they were denied. So they decided to sue. And it went all the way to circuit court. Fourth Circuit, as a matter of fact. And the Fourth Circuit ruled back then that, you know what? You're right. It is unconstitutional. We said you're an adult at 18. And yet we said you can't buy a handgun until you're 21. Which means we are splitting the hair and trying to figure out what an adult really is. You can't have it both ways. You can fight and die for your country at 18. But you can't smoke cigarettes till you're 21. And now you can't drink alcohol legally. Buy it until you're 21. And that handgun, you know, that sidearm that they issued you, that M17, 17 or 19, the SIG, whatever. You can't buy that. They can issue you one, but you can't buy it yourself as a civilian. They said, no, you know what? That is unconstitutional. Because on the same token, they had to slap down the Democrats when they wanted to lower the voting age to 16. I'm sorry. So you're an adult to vote at 16. You're an adult to legally have sex with each other at 17 in most states. Age of consent laws. It's also coincidentally the dropout age for most states is the same as the age of consent. Now you're able to sign your life over to Uncle Sam, fight and possibly die for him at age 18. But you can no longer buy a pack of cigarettes or a beer or an MD 2020 if you want to puke the rainbow until you're 21. Or buy a pistol. But you can own a rifle at 18. That's fine. We have split the hair so many ways on what an adult is that the Fourth Circuit said this is ridiculous. And they put Brill cream on that split hair. And they said, no, it's unconstitutional. Great! Victory! There was an appeal. The appeal had a moratorium, which stayed the decision, which means 18-year-olds couldn't go out and buy pistols. Funny that when it's anti-gun, the stays stick, but when it's pro-gun, they overturn it every time, right? Like, what's up with that double standard, first of all? So you got that going on. Well, here we go. I entitled this Fourth Circus Shenanigans. They have reversed their ruling on that ban. Apparently, selling pistols to people under 21 is now constitutional again. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You don't need a pistol till you're 21. It's fine. Do you know why they reversed this decision? This wasn't even political. This is pathetic. They reversed it because the plaintiff is now 21 years old. The plaintiff is no longer relevant to the details of the very case they brought before the court. And since they are now of legal age, the court just seems to assume, well, hell, you're the age, you don't even care about this shit anymore. Go get your gun. See ya. Case closed. I gotta ask you, what about everyone else, you idiots? What about the rest of the nation that's between the ages of 18 to 20 days and 20 years and 364 days? What about all those people? Because I'm sure there are millions of them. So we can just reverse a ruling just because the plaintiff ages out? Is that how that works? Is that how justice works these days? Thoughts? See, Tony's still gone.
I would. No, I'm not.
All right. Thoughts?
I would have to actually get into their freaking ruling. I mean, I should look it up and read it, I guess.
It'd probably be a good idea. Here it is. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals panel ruled that banning sales of firearms to adults under 21 is clearly unconstitutional. The ruling noted that our nation's most cherished constitutional rights vest no later than 18, and that the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms is no different. That was then. This is now. Now that the plaintiffs in this case, Tanner Hirschfield and Natalia Marshall, are both 21 years old, each had tried to buy firearms in Virginia and were refused. As a result of the delays inherent in the legal process, the fact that the suit she filed against the ATF is now moot. Or as the fourth panel would say, the challenge to the age restrictions was brought by a prospective handgun buyer, Natalia Marshall, who was unable to purchase a handgun from an FFL dealer in Virginia because of her age. Once Marshall had turned 21, she was no longer prohibited from buying a handgun, and there was no longer a legal controversy. So Marshall's attorney tried to add a new younger plaintiff to the appeal, 2 days after Marshall turned 21, according to the court. But by then, the court said, case is moot, dismissed. They already had closed their eyes and shut their ears and said, bah, 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 nope, we're not hearing it. That's what they're doing. One way or another, these laws are going to continue to be challenged. It's unfortunate that the government will evade the repercussions of the court's thorough ruling simply because the nature of the laws at issue allow them to escape final review through a lengthy litigation process. They don't want to do their job, is what they're saying. And the scapegoat was, hey, you're old enough now. What's the big deal? Case dismissed. Go buy your gun. We don't care. Well, yeah, but my little brother just turned 19. He wants to buy one too. Well, he's got to wait. We just reversed this ruling because it doesn't apply to you. Now your brother can sue and we can start this bullshit all over again. And by the time we hear it, he'll be 21 too. Do you see what they're doing?
They're trying to avoid it going to the Supreme Court.
They're trying to stay reelected. They're trying to
It's
stay reappointed. They're trying
it
to do as
happens.
little work as possible.
This happens on just about every 2A case that hits the ninth.
Right, but this is the fourth. See, this
Yeah, but it's not
this
quite as bad as the ninth, but it's up there.
well, yeah, basically what we're seeing is this stupidity is bleeding over into other circuit courts. Coincidentally, it's bleeding
What
into the areas where these people who lived in these other districts have fled and moved to.
what you have to do is find a conservative circuit court and file there, because that will either get ruled on or get pushed up to Supreme Court.
Yes, and if that plaintiff turns 21, somebody's palms will get greased and somebody will look the other way and drive off in their new Ferrari 458 or super fast 612 or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't have faith in that system anymore. It's too corruptible and it's not
No, it's
checked
too
anymore.
corrupted.
Well, it's too corruptible. You can take good men and turn them into shitlords. You just have to sign the right number of zeros on the end of that check. Smeggy is asking if we're going to watch the Gun Rights Policy Conference, which starts in 15 minutes. If I remember, I'm not saying that it's not worth your time. It is. It is. It's a good way to stay up to date on what's going on and keep your finger on the pulse of what is going on. That is undeniable. Unfortunately, for me, just as an observer, it's an old way of doing it. It's a method that is slightly ineffective. Because if this is the thing I'm thinking of, this is where they rent out a hall and a bunch of old guys repeat the same thing they said for the last 30 years in an echo chamber of other old guys, and a couple of new hats come out there and film it, and nothing changes. And you end
Yeah,
up
that's
with
what you're thinking.
you end up with hours and hours and hours of the same type of stories of this woman she survived because she pulled out her gun and she shot the guy 3 times. And it's like, good for her, great. It's like I know there's value in it. Maybe I'm just jaded to it now because I've seen it so many times. I have seen the conferences so many times, and I have not seen positive outcomes happen as many times. Like, why do we have to do 10 things to get one thing? That kind of a thing. But yeah, I'm going to watch some of it, of course. And then what I'll probably do is, when I start to hear the beginning of wah, 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 the story, I'll just hit the mute button. Certain speakers I will listen to. Certain writers I may listen to. The thing in its entirety, I can't do it. I'll be in a coma. But yeah.
Or drunk in stupor.
I got a lot to do today, actually. Which actually leads me to our final segment of the day, which is, what are you doing the rest of the weekend? Go on.
I, for one, am going to do some research for something we're starting on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that,
If
probably not.
If you put some of that into your early watch show prep channel, that only you and me and only you and me and Jimmy can see, if I have any sources, I'll share them with you. Like, I'll put it in there, but I don't know what you're on yet, so like, just kind of outline it, and then if I can help you, I'll throw some stuff in there for you.
All right.
Scott, what do you got going on? Really? It's fascinating.
Same thing I do pretty much every weekend.
Run to the locals.
Make the rounds at the locals, yeah.
Keep an eye on your Steyr-Hahn auction.
Keep an eye on auctions.
Well, if you post the link, I'll be sure to share it with everyone so they can upbid it for you.
Yeah. Not gonna happen.
So, we got our first autumnal cool front on the day of the autumnal equinox, no less. which, if you don't know what that is, I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm just saying if you don't know what it is, the autumnal equinox is the start geographically of autumn, where the day is exactly the same amount of time as the night, and every day that follows it is a little bit shorter, which
Now,
means the days are going to get a little bit shorter.
that particular statement applies to where you're at because
Well,
that
okay, in the
changes.
States. If you're in the northern hemisphere,
It changes based on your distance from the equator, which
correct,
I,
because the days have been getting shorter further north. You're right. But there, see, the thing is it's kind of a constant, though. So, like, the blanket statement of the days are getting shorter still stands. It's just
yes,
what hour is a little different for if you're further up north. I get that.
yeah, and it's the calendar
Yeah.
equinox.
So the days are getting shorter. The nights are going to start getting cooler. Uh, when I left my buddy Ron's yesterday, it was about 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that. It was gorgeous. It was like 63 degrees outside. My car loves cool air, like really, because it's high compression and it runs on jungle juice, super fuel. So, like, it really likes cool air. And that thing, man, it you can feel a difference. Like if I dynoed it today versus dynoing it in like July, there's a substantial difference. Anyway, um, I have to basically be manual labor again all weekend this time though. I started finally working on the house. I started with the backyard because it's the thing that needs the most attention right now. I have to cut out the rest of my deck in the backyard. I cut out one half and I got to cut out the other half. But the difference is last week it was 97 degrees outside. Today it's 81. So I'm going to enjoy this. And somehow I forgot to do laundry for 3 weeks. So now I've got to wash everything. Like usually I do it every other week. And I have like a week of, oh shit, I need to wear something. I still have something. But yeah, now I got to do everything. So that's probably going to take up the whole day. I still got to go to my coworker's house, George, because I have to help him finish setting up his garage. He's moved into a house, and I have been given a part of his garage. So I'm going to set it all up, put up some shelving for him, and then take the top off my car and leave it over at his place on the stand. Because it's convertible weather. Holy shit, right? Like, I think I've had the top off of my car twice in 3 years. And I'm going to enjoy that. It's always the same thing though. I got to take it off. Got to put the top up, and then I got to go to the manual car wash and clean the canvas first, and then I can do the body work. But that's worth it to me. The juice is worth the squeeze because I've only gotten to drive it twice with the top down, and it's a different experience. It's definitely different. Like having a sunroof isn't the same. That's like looking out of a window above you. When you've got nothing but the world above you, it's kind of cool. But then again, my city's kind of crappy. So it's like I don't get to drive it much because if I drive it to work, I'm stuck in city traffic. And all there is a bunch of people and a bunch of stink and a bunch of noise and a bunch of exhaust, and it sucks. But I think I'm going to go she's not my girlfriend, sort of. But I'm probably going to go visit her today or tomorrow, and she lives sort of out in the country, and maybe I'll take her for a drive because it's really nice out. Maybe we'll go to Brenham and go to the Bluebell Ice Cream Factory or something because that's always fun. And I think
Well,
Clover's
it's
daughter
somewhere
works
private
there.
fucking park.
Well, because Clover's daughter works there, and I didn't know that until this year. So maybe I'll drop in and say hello. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. Like she wants to go shooting, which is cool. But she's not, she's sort of my ex, so I don't know if I want to trust her with that. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. That's pretty much my weekend, though. I got to cut the deck out. I got to do laundry. I got to take the top off the car, clean someone else's garage, and set that up. I might do it. I'm going to record the first half of the next This Old Gat. And since I already told you what I bought, The next episode of This Old Gat will cover the Swedish M1938 Swedish, or sorry, I said Swedish, the Swedish Mauser in 6.5 by 55. So what I'll probably do is I'll do the preliminary recording because I can do the woodwork now. Um, film that, and then I got to wait for all the other parts before I can put it back together. And I don't think I have enough material to make this one a two-parter, so it'll just be a delayed release. As for Saturdays or Sundays kicking it old school, like I'm already done with that. I ended up recording 4 episodes ahead for that, so I just have to release that, which is nice. Like I can relax on Sunday for once instead of having to record and edit. I did all that last week, so there'll be a new kicking it old school, trying to keep that to its Sunday releases. I've been meaning to do a gun review, and I'm sitting in front of 6 carry pistols, and I kind of think I need to cover all of them one at a time. So that'd be 6 different gun reviews. I don't know how I want to do it though. Like the way I used to do gun reviews is kind of lame, and I used to like threading in a shooting segment with it, but it's not really doing anybody any benefit just to see me shoot it, It's like, talk about the gun, talk about its features. I guess I could do a shooting segment so you can see what the recoil impulse looks like, but I mean, I've got Popeye forearms, so recoil is not really a big deal for me. Like, what I'm doing may not be what you're going to experience, Like, shooting a full-size 2011 framed 8 or 17 round 10 millimeter for me, it's going to be like shooting a 9 for someone else. Like that kind of jumpy recoil might not. You might think I'm shooting a 9, and I'm actually shooting a 10. Or if I shoot my 44 Magnum, you're gonna be thinking like, oh, you're shooting a 38 Special, but man, that's a hell of a fireball. It's like, because it's a 44 Magnum. Anyway, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. How's YouTube about shooting segments these days anyway? Like, I haven't poked that bear in a while.
All the people I follow still are posting them.
Yeah, I think I will. I don't know. I've got a new range that I need to get a membership to, and it's a case of what was old is new again, because it was the range that is behind my neighborhood, and it took new ownership, and I stopped going because the old ownership was fascist, essentially. But the new one seems to be okay. But I have to get a membership there. They have this one dumb rule where if you use a long gun, you can only bring one per trip. And if you want to bring an extra one, they charge you an additional $5. And I'm like, what the hell for? You can take your car, check in, drive over to your lane, back up to the shooting table, and just leave your guns in your trunk. Like, I could sit on the bench and lean against my back bumper. That's how close you can park to it if you want. So I don't understand what this extra $5 thing is. But then the guy was like, but if you buy a membership, you can bring as many as you want. And I thought, it's a money grab. Now, granted, the membership is half the price of all the other ones. It's still $400 a year, though. And I'm not sure if they're cool with me filming. Like, I have to get that in writing. I'm gonna tell them, I'm like, yo, I film for YouTube. Is it cool if I set up a camera on the shooting table? Would that be okay? I think they're cool with chronos. So that's a bonus, because I'm definitely going to invest in one of those, especially since I'm working up load tables for 150-year-old milsurps. And I still have to record a 4570 reloading video. I keep forgetting to do that. One of my most popular videos on my channel, strangely enough, is one of the first ones I ever did. And I called it Reloading Bench 4570 Part 1. Because I had intended on doing a second video, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I think I did Part 1 with Full Metal Jackets, and I think I was going to do Part 2 with lead cast bullets. And then I ended up doing both on the first episode. And I've actually gotten comments 2 or 3 times where they said, hey, is there ever going to be an episode 2? Well, the answer is yes, actually, because I got a new bullet to try. They're 500 grain gas check bullets. I think it's the outer limits of what a Marlin 1895 can chamber, because usually the bigger ones are for the falling blocks. But this one I had confirmed that yes, it will chamber. So ideally, I want to do a chapter or an episode 2 for that, because people like that rifle. Uh, I paid $710 for it. I bought it as a trade-in. Like, I was in the shop and I had asked if they had one, and they said no, but I can order you one. And coincidentally, at the other end of the bench, a guy was just trading one in. And I walked over and I'm like, "Is that an SBL?" "Yeah." "Is that a 4570?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Are you selling that?" And he goes, "Well, I just traded it in." And I looked at the guy who was taking the trade in and I said, "I'll take it." And he goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, what are you going to give him for it?" And he was like, $710. And I'm like, "Make me an invoice for $710 in tax." And the guy kind of got caught off guard. And the owner, because my mom or my dad and I have been collectively shopping there for 40 years, the owner told him, "Go ahead and give it to him." So I got it for him at his cost. The last time I looked up an 1895 SBL, it was over $2,000. So cool. And like I finally have something that went up in value in my lifetime, substantially in my lifetime. That wasn't a milcert.
Multiple. Oh, see, that's where I was going to go.
Yeah, that wasn't a milcert. I have a funny feeling that my Beaumont's going to go up in value. I paid $700 for that, but I got appraised at collectors for 22 or 2100. So I'm pretty happy with that. Although I thought originally I overpaid, but the appraisal calmed me down. The 89 Swiss straight pole, that is already going up in value. I paid $300 for it. I had to do some woodwork on it, but yeah, $300. I think Classic's selling those now for like $550. So that's kind of cool. I know my Type 38 Arisaka's way undervalued. Like, I got it for a steal. So I'm pretty sure I've
Hey, I got a bail.
All right, Tony. So I'm pretty sure I'll double my money on that.
Well, I could already double my money on my K31.
Yes. I'm not sure my Siamese Mauser has far to go. Like, it's in a weird caliber, hard to get, it's hard to make. So I'm content with what I paid for it. I think I paid like $420 or $430 for it, but it's really, really nice. I think I did an episode on it too.
Into my what Mauser is that? Is that my not an Argentinian?
I've
It's
got
a
an
South
Argentine.
American. It's an FN. Peruvian.
Oh.
I think I have a Peruvian.
Yeah.
That I paid $600 for, which is way undervalued for what it is.
I've got an Argentine, but I need, like, if I wanted to restore it, I need a new barrel.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about my Mauser.
Hmm.
It's literally was re-arsenaled in the 50s.
Oh, yours is the 30-06 one or the 308 one?
30-06.
Yeah.
So it's in a extremely common caliber.
Yep.
And yeah, it's in beautiful condition.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start looking for a barrel for my Argentine. There's nothing wrong with the barrel on my Argentine now. Like, it was drilled and tapped for scope mount, kind of annoyed. But if I were to restore it, like, the stock was unmolested, and it's a really nice one too. But I would have to replace the barrel, find a rear sight and a front sight for it, because someone had bobbed the barrel on this. They chopped it and crowned it right at the barrel band at the front. There should be 3 more inches of barrel at the end of it. What I'm thinking is someone dropped it or ruined the crown, and that's why they cut the end off. But yeah. I mean, it's still it's a full-length rifle minus the 3 inches on the end.
Or what typically happens is you either get throat erosion at the very beginning, and that might be something you want to look into. or at the very end of the barrel. So that could have been, they could have had a barrel that was
Shot out.
having rounds go sideways because there was a nick or something in the end of the barrel.
Maybe. I mean, the rifling on it's mint all the way down. Like I've shined flashlights.
I'm betting
Like if
that
you look in the gun pics for the Swede that I put in yesterday, that's mint. Like there's not a pit anywhere down that entire barrel.
no. Well, the Swedes never used corrosive ammo.
Well, it's usually the primers that are corrosive, not the powder. So yeah, throat erosion would be a thing.
But you know what I mean? I bet you that's what happened to that.
I don't know. All I know is it's
Because the two spots where the wear is going to show up first are at the ends.
yeah, especially if the bullet got real hot. I don't know. I mean, right now it shoots fine. It's just it's
Yeah, because they got rid of the bad part of the rifling.
it's so nice the way it is, but it just bothers me that I don't have the whole barrel. Like if I find a barrel cheap, I'll do it because this barrel's been blasted and primed and painted black, and the receiver's painted black, but the bluing is really nice underneath it. So I can restore the receiver. The bolt's good, the mag's good, everything else is good. It's just 3 inches of the barrel. I don't know. I'll burn that bridge later. I gotta finish the Swede. I gotta do the Berthier. And what else? I think that's it. I only got the 2 right now that I'm working on. And then I
Yeah.
gotta shoot all of them, obviously.
Well, after I get off here, I got to make a call down to your neck of the woods.
Ask for John. That's the internet sales guy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. In that case, I think what
Did you
I'll
ask him
probably
at all,
do-
or did it slip your mind?
No, he was gone by the time I got there.
Okay.
So I guess now's a good time to start playing this because we did reach 2 hours. And I do want to thank, well, Tony's already gone, but I'll thank my panel for being here, and I'll thank you all for watching. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. But if you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, maybe tell others who know of me that we do this or that I have this channel, and that way we can spread the show and make it grow. Also, if you want to be a part of our lobby for working stiffs, we are on and live every day. Just hit me up at the email address in the link in the description below, and if you use a new name that I don't recognize, just let me know what your old one was, and I will send you an invite. You can join the server, you can even join the panel of this show. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next week. Later.